Hello and welcome to Candid Conversation. Our guest this week is Srijan Singh. He was a close aide and advisor to former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and has co-authored 3 books with him. He was with him in his final hours and has written a moving post on social media about his association with him. Today we will talk to him about his memories and association with Dr. Kalam. I welcome you, Srijan Singh, to Candid Conversation. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Your first meeting with Dr. Kalam was way back 6 years ago in 2008. How was that meeting?
Yes, so in 2008, actually, my first meeting with him was as a student and a teacher. So just as Dr. Kalam was into the second year post-presidency, I was in the second year of my MBA. And that's when he decided to take a course at Indian Institute of Management in Ahmedabad with a professor of mine, and I was a student of that course. There he decided on taking a course on how can we create an India which is a global power. And I made many presentations to him. The idea of Pura, providing urban amenities in rural areas, struck me very well there. And we continued our association even beyond the course curriculum, and we continued the discussion, which culminated in 2009 when I graduated. He asked me if I could work with him. And since then, the journey has been pretty much very exciting, and we've worked on a lot of projects on a full-time basis.
People across the world know him as a fountain of wisdom, but he has a lighter side to his personality as well. And he used to address you and many others as funny guy. You also, I heard, plan to write a book on his language. Tell us more about that.
No, absolutely. I think wisdom was also reflected in his humor, because his humor was extremely witty, and it took some amount of thinking to actually understand it.
How long did you take to interpret that, funny guy?
Funny guy is the most difficult one of it, actually. It takes about a year to interpret, because it kind of is deciphering on the tone in which it is said. But yes, Dr. Kalam has his own way of communicating extremely rigid things and extremely complicated, sometimes things which may put you in a spot in a very cogent manner, in words which make it look so humorous and light. And he did it individually with anyone who came across, and he did even in a class. So funny guy, for example, is something which has kind of caught attention. That is which funny guy he would call anybody. So it could mean
and books
good.
were fellows for him.
Yeah, so no, many things were fellow for him. Okay. Funny fellow, funny guy, everything meant a different thing to him. So a funny guy could mean anything good, bad, you've been good, you've been bad, or he's just being jovial. Funny thing could mean something which he does not like to eat.
For food, he used the word smashing.
If the food is good, then he will say, "Are you smashing?" So which means, "Are you eating well?" If you're late for a particular day in an office and he's sitting there and you're not there, which is rare. But if I ever did that, then he'll say, "Oh, are you cutting class?" And if somebody's not well, then he'll not say that, "Are you ill?" He'll say, "Are you under repair?" And and the next day he'll say, "Have you been repaired?" So he had his own way of making things light, keeping things light, so that everybody enjoyed his company. And of course, that is one of his hallmark of winning people and making them so comfortable around him.
Not many people know that he loved cricket, though, I mean, you've revealed earlier that he's a Dhoni fan and he used to keep asking you for updates. Did he get the time to watch matches? He only got the time to ask for updates, is it?
Yes, that's all he did. So actually his favorite sport, whenever, once I asked him, was badminton, and then followed by cricket. Okay. He said, but he was a great follower of cricket, that I must say. I remember during the World Cup, he was extremely interested to know, between our travels, we were traveling on very important matches actually, and he was very interested to know what is the score. In fact, some of his speeches, he will tell the score. At the start of the speech, he will tell the score. And if something very important happened, I'll keep, on my mobile, I'll keep the updates coming and I'll type it in his speech that this has happened. And he'll tell in the middle of the speech that this has happened in the match, in case you're interested to know. And of course, there were occasions when Indian cricket team was not doing well, and I will tell him, "Sir, it's not happening." And he will say, "Don't worry, our captain will come and he'll do something unique."
The eternal optimist that he was.
Eternal optimist he was, of course.
And also, not many people know that he used to love potato pakoras, used to call them round fellows, and that he used to talk to an Ashoka tree in his garden at his residence.
Yes, yes. So potato pakora was a small round fellow. A round fellow was usually a rasagulla or a laddu kind of a thing. So he had his own language, but he used to love it, and tea was his favorite beverage. So with tea was something he really loved. And incidentally, that was the last time he had in Shillong. The last thing he had to consume before that incident happened was exactly this. The tree, of course, there's a grand tree in his house which is 110 years old, and it's called, so he named it Ashoka. And he would, and it's a huge tree, he would tell me, and anybody who will come there, he will always take them to show this tree. He'll say that, look at this tree. It is such huge tree. Half of my house is in its shade, and it has got so many life forms on it. It houses so many birds. And one day I said, okay, fine. So, yeah, it's a tree, right? So, what's so great about it? So he said, go and count how many people live there. And then you could see
counted the nests.
How many nests are there, how many insects are there, and how many runners are around that tree who are surviving on that. The runner plants are around that tree. So he said, look, this tree is a life giver, and you must respect it. And he had this thing that, and I said, then what do you communicate with him? I mean, he's not going to talk back. He said, that does not matter. I thank him because, and he knows that I have thanked him. I have communicated it, and that's most important.
What were the other most endearing aspects of his personality?
I think the most endearing aspect of his personality was the fact that he had the curiosity of a child and the humility of a very grand person, and he could mix them both. So if you were to tell him anything new, he will just sit back and say, okay, tell me, okay, then why this, and then why that, and what about that, but how do I link this to this? Why don't you Google this and tell me this more? And then finally he'll say, okay, then you give a printout of all these things and I will read it more. And then he will actually go, and next day he'll come with markings on it, and he'll say that this is, what is this, what did this mean? So for example, the other day, and this is 24th of July, I was discussing Mahabharata with him. And we were discussing on how rules were broken. Rules were formed and rules were broken even in Mahabharata. Then he gave me assignment to find out how many rules were broken by whom. And it was a massive search, but it was, it also enriched me.
Absolutely.
And then he said, you make an Excel sheet of this and give it to me. And then he read them, and the next day he asked me, Advisior, why did he break this rule? And what about that rule? And what is the percentage of rules broken by one side versus another side? Which was, I think his curiosity was, at an 83-year-old person, who's probably known as the fountainhead of knowledge, had the curiosity of a child, which was so beautiful in him. And the other thing which we all have now got to know is his humility. For example, even in the last hours of his life, he was thinking about the guard sitting in the gypsy in front of him, and who was standing for 2 hours.
In the pilot vehicle? In
the pilot vehicle, right. In the open pilot vehicle, he was standing, and he did not want it. And that goes for everybody. He would never refer to any one of us, so me or somebody, who would do the typing for him or manage his schedule, or somebody who upkeeps his garden or gives him food or does anything. He would never refer to them by their position. He'll always say friend. He's my friend, he's also my friend, he manages my garden, my friend, and this other friend manages my schedule. So he had this way of giving people respect, even at this age, at that stature.
Absolutely, his humility really was overwhelming. Absolutely. But since you're talking about the last journey that you had with him from Delhi to Guwahati and then to Shillong, and you refer to that pilot vehicle that one guard was standing, and he was very pained by the fact that so much pain was taken by one particular guard, and after that he spoke to the guard, and the guard said, "Aapke liye to 6 ghante bhi khada rahenge." But you've also posted on social media a handbag of his. And you asked him, why is it getting heavier by the day?
Absolutely.
And he said, it's because I'm reading more.
Yes, so he had this, he was a voracious reader. His Rajaji Marg residence, he used to live on the first floor, and about 75% of the first floor was a library and a reading room. That was all. So his entire existence was in the reading room and in the library. His books were thousands of books, perhaps 3,000-4,000 books were spilled all over the library. In his reading room, whole piles of books were there. In his bedroom, the books are there. In the garden, the books are there. And he knew which book is where. So you don't disturb them. He'll always say, don't disturb my book. It's there. I know which page it is, and I know which table, which book is lying, and which page I'm reading. And he would do multiple reading. He will not stick to just one book. And that kind of transpired in the fact that when he went out on tour, he had to take compulsorily 2 or 3 books because he was reading all of them together. And so what was happening is that if the tour was any long, so if the journey, for example, the Shillong journey was about 6 hours one side, so that's 12 hours of traveling time, he would carry more books. So that's why when I lifted the book, lifted his bag in the aircraft, I said, it's getting very heavy, sir. So he said, because I'm reading more.
And he used to play the veena as well. Did he get time for that?
Well, I think that was a part of his pastime. I have not seen him play that much veena as much as do reading. And but there was a large veena which he always kept in his library, and whenever he would find time, he would use it.
On that point, we'll take a short break. We'll be back in Candid Conversation. We are in conversation today with Srijan Pal Singh.
भारत संचार निगम लिमिटेड यानी बीएसएनएल ने अपनी मोबाइल सेवा पर देश भर में रोमिंग फ्री कर दी है। पूरी फैमिली के रिश्तों को जोड़ दिया है। अब ज्यादा सिम कार्ड और ज्यादा हैंडसेट से मिला छुटकारा। इनकमिंग के चलते देश भर में रोमिंग फ्री, जितनी चाहे बातें करो। One nation, one number. To join BSNL, dial toll-free number 1800-180-1503. BSNL, हिंदुस्तान बोल रहा है।
ये है मास्टर राजू, पढ़ाई लिखाई में कमजोर और खेल कूद के मैदान में पीछे। राजू की कमजोरी की वजह है उसका भोजन। राजू की मां खाने में इस्तेमाल करती है साधारण नमक। डॉक्टर बताते हैं कि आयोडीन की कमी से बच्चे के शारीरिक और मानसिक विकास में बाधा पहुंचती है। इसलिए आज ही अपनाएं शक्ति और बुद्धि का रक्षक आयोडीन नमक। एक व्यक्ति के लिए आयोडीन नमक का मासिक खर्च 1 कप चाय की कीमत से भी कम बैठता है।
सवारी जिंदगी चुटकी भर नमक, आयोडीन नमक।
Welcome back. You're watching Candid Conversation. Our guest this week is Srijan Pal Singh, a close aide and advisor to former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He's sharing his memories with him and he's telling us how he's been associated with him and about his qualities and his versatile personality. Mr. Singh, had he not been the President of India, what are the qualities that he would be most remembered for?
Well, I think even now, despite being the President of India, the best quality he's remembered for is his humility, is his ability to connect with the youth, and the fact that he loved being a teacher. And even when I would ask him, sir, what will you be like to be remembered for? So actually, the story behind it is that often, twice a week, he would ask me this question: "You are a young man. Tell me, what will you like to be remembered for?" And I would tell him something. He said, "No, you told this last time too. Evolve." So I had to evolve every time, and till a point I got a little tired, and I said, "What will you like to be remembered for? You tell me first." So he said, so I said, "Would you like to be remembered for a missile man, or a president, or a Vision 2020, or a space scientist, or a nuclear person?" He said, "No, I want to be remembered as a teacher." I think that is one thing which he will be remembered for eternity. I think that's his quality, and that comes from the fact that he loved youth, he loved the children especially, and he was able to connect to them, and he was able to speak their language. It was amazing to see 50,000 children in front of him, and he would say an oath, and all these 50,000 little children who usually would be murmuring with each other, when he was speaking would be pin drop silent, and they would repeat whatever he said. He was like a Pied Piper to children.
Though you've met him in 2008, that was post his presidential term. Did you ever ask him if he was always comfortable in that chair? Because there are sometimes difficult choices that one has to make.
No, of course, as a president you mean. Yeah, so I'm sure this conversation has happened many times, and there have been, of course, difficult moments in his life as a president. Sometimes you have to decide on things which are difficult, which may, which are really not right or wrong choices, and you don't know much about it. So his take was this: that when you can either choose to do simple things in life, and you will never have trouble of choices. But he picked up something from his guru, and he said that his guru, told him that when you do a difficult problem, when you take up a difficult challenge, there always will be very difficult problems. But don't let problems become your captains. Become the captains of your problem, defeat the problem, and succeed.
So that was the philosophy of his life when he was faced with difficult choices during his presidential term?
Absolutely. Any time he was faced with difficulty, he would not deter, because in a way he kind of thrived on difficulties. He was okay to deal with difficulties because he told me that if you're keeping a small aim, then it's easy to solve things. But the fact that there are difficulties tells you that you are actually living up to your potential.
Now, many people would wonder, for instance, I have wondered that how would he dabble between two different personas, one of empathy and compassion and simplicity, the other of being a pivot behind something like the Pokhran 2 nuclear tests. So how would he combine so many aspects of his persona into one?
I think he was a saint and a scientist, and he had that thing very well in his mind. So he was a saintly scientist or a scientific saint, whatever you call him. But he always found a lot of solace in spirituality. So, and that goes across any religion. So he was well read on spirituality across a spectrum of writers and of people who are philosophers. He always believed that he would do only things which he believed in were ethically correct. So even if he was into, a lot of people asked him, you mentioned the Pokhran incident. So one day a child asked him, how can you invent a nuclear bomb and yet talk about peace? How do they go together? So his reply to that was, I believe in a philosophy that strength respects strength, and the world pivots on this respect. And India has been, in its entire history, not ruled by Indians for more than 600 years. We've been always ruled by foreigners. So why it's important for us to have strength, because we want to value our independence. That is not for combating and being a warmonger, but to ensure that our strength is respected by others, and we can develop without worrying about the fact that some aggression will happen from outside. So even in his scientific role, he had a spiritual message. He had a name which was actually of peace, which kind of I think motivated him in whatever he did. Otherwise, all those things which he did, if you divide his life into decades, each decade he's done something which is 10 years ahead of it, or at least 10 years ahead of it, and that I think is only possible if you really believe in what you're doing.
Absolutely. Also, his hairstyle has been a source of intrigue for me, and I'm sure for many others. And I remember that when the presidential election was held, there was an invalidated ballot which said that he should get a haircut, maybe he'll look better in that. But he was a little conscious about his hairstyle. I've spoken to makeup artists who've told me about that. So just tell us more about that. I mean, his love for his hair and how he wanted it to look in a particular way, and why is that?
Well, on a joking note, at 83-year-old, having so many hair on your head itself is an achievement. But I think, so it's not that he was extremely particular about his hair, but he definitely would carry a comb and a small little long, and anytime he had to get out of somewhere, he'll just take 30 seconds to just be in order. But
is that because he believed in
no, I think yes, yes, of course, and fit is a better word, because he would also do a lot of other things around it. I mean, for example, he will take a 2-hour walk around his Rajaji residence every day, whether it's raining or whether it is it's June heat. In fact, he was doing it on 24th July as well, and it was so hot, and I told him that what are you doing, it's so hot, but he said no, I have to do it. So all things around him meant discipline. I think his hairstyle was a part of the aura of discipline which he had around him, whether his hairstyle or his bandgala, everything was about discipline. If you look, in the evening when we go out, and he would keep things in order, the way he would put his electric shaver in the plug, then switch off the plug, then put the cover on the shaver. That will happen every day in the same way.
He was methodical.
Very methodical, and he was very disciplined, and he will do exactly as the discipline. His food, his wake up time, everything was by the clock.
Absolutely. It's said that you have to be disciplined if you really have to manage your life well. And for a man who's had so many achievements, you can only imagine how disciplined he would be. Also, Srijan, the other point is that you've done a lot of projects with him, and you've co-authored 3 books. So how was the experience working with a man with so much wisdom and so much knowledge about various walks of life?
No, I think it's brilliant. First of all, because he's able to bring so much of diversity. He's able to connect one thing with another. I remember in the first book which we wrote, Target 3 Billion, he was able to relate rural development with a car manufacturing plant we saw in Georgetown, Kentucky. And he was able to relate these two together, how the rural development model of India can learn from a car manufacturing factory in US, which is, I think, that is his brilliance. He's always able to do, relate to things and create new knowledge product out of it. At the same time, it is challenging, because he had this habit of not solving the problem, but he'll take you to 60% and then leave you, and then observe, and then let you struggle a bit and come out with something, 2 or 3 iterations, and then he will tell you what is his opinion about. So he always did that. I think that's good in a way, because then you're teaching a way of thinking. That was it. And the other thing about writing books with him is he was very particular about what is going out, because he did not want any nonsense to go, any fly without any meaning to go out. He will just cut it out. He'll take a pen and all red. He will do that, and then he'll take notes on it. And that, I think, so he was extremely serious about what he's writing, what he's speaking, because he knew that people are going to follow it, and a lot of people will start perhaps something, their life might change because of it, and he took the responsibility of it.
That brings me to another question, Srijan, and that is on the unfinished lecture. And he wants students to give suggestions that the parliament is dysfunctional, that it is more productive, and that the world is a better place to live in, and how to tackle things like terrorism. Yeah,
so the title of the lecture series at IIM Shillong was going to be Creating a Livable Planet Earth. And he was concerned because his view was that in all this whole whatever agendas different countries are following, we are not taking care of the fact that the planet will remain livable at all. So each one is going by his own rules, each country, but we're not coming together.
And he said that by this rate, in 30 years, mankind will leave this planet.
Yes. So how much time do you give us? He said, in 30 years, if you go like this, you guys will have to find another planet to live. So don't do this. And you are a young guy. He said, I'm not going to be there in 30 years, but you are going to be there, and you have to ensure that your generation does something so that this whole deadline of 30 years is broken, and our ways have to change. And he was also worried about the fact that the Punjab thing happened, because that same day it happened. And he was saying that it's not just pollution which is a challenge to livability of this planet. The other challenge is hatred. We hate each other so much. How? So he was worried about it, and he said we must do something about it. And the other thing which I think you started your question was about the parliament thing, right? And so he was extremely concerned about that, and that was the assignment. So he was about to give an assignment to children, to his student rather, on how to stop the disruptions in parliament forever.
Not you plan to write a book on that unfinished lecture and
so there is a book which was
those suggestions?
Yeah, actually there was a book which is in process. The third book was due to be published in September.
Advantage India.
Advantage India. Now we intend to do it on his birthday, which is 15th of October. And this assignment and the unfinished lecture, we will make it a part of that book as a tribute to him. The book is, of course, co-authored by him. The book had finished, but we'll add this new lecture into it, and we will put it. Also, one more thing happened since you talked about the assignment. I posted this assignment question on Facebook, and that got shared. So what we did was that we've taken the national feedback now on how the nation thinks the political system should work in a more functional manner, in a more constructive manner, and there are thousands of suggestions which people have given. I was amazed within 1 hour there were like 1,000 comments with solutions on it. So I think one thing that unfinished assignment has got done is triggered the nation to think on how governance could be better.
Absolutely, that could be a fitting tribute to him. But I want to ask you that question. What will be the most fitting tribute that the nation can pay to a man like him?
I think, there's been a lot of talk on this already. But let me tell you something, Dr. Kalam is above symbols. I mean, you may say symbols are important, but then definitely symbols should not become our goal and end. He lives in the hearts of the people. If you look, you would have followed his funeral, the amount of people who turned up, the amount of people who have cried on social media, in person, in Rameshwaram, in Delhi, the amount of the posters have been put between Madurai to Rameshwaram, from the airport to the place where he was finally buried, and they were all not political. Nobody, right? He does not endorse any industry. He does not endorse any political party. He's just beyond everything else. It's just love which he endorses. He commands the love on the people. So I think we have to respect that love, and that love between Dr. Kalam and the people of India has to come out in whatever way he has to be remembered as. His love was for children, especially small children. He said these small children below the age of 17, they can be transformed into righteous citizens who can combat any problem this country has. So ignited mind of the youth is the most powerful resource on this earth, above the earth and under the earth. That is what he said. So we should do something about these children. He was extremely pained, I can tell you, because I shared with him. So I used to spend time with children on the streets at Connaught Place, and I used to tell him the stories. And he said, "I want to meet these children. I want to meet these children." And so at one or two occasions we got to meet him as well, these children. And he said, "Why are children out of school? Why should children be out of school? If I was..."
So maybe a brighter future for children would be the most.
First of all, we should have a way so that all children in this country are enrolled in schools, so that each one of them has the chance to become another Kalam. The second most important thing is he had a great respect for the power which a primary school teacher has, or any teacher has, but especially the primary school teacher. And he also was concerned that the quality of the primary school teacher needs to be improved. From his international analysis, this is what he came up with. And that is another thing. His idea was that we should do something about the primary school teachers.
Train teachers.
Train teachers better. Keep them upskilled. Upskilling was extremely important. And the third thing was a more magnanimous, a center for societal transformation can be considered in his memory. Because which could be multidimensional, which could include Pura, India 2020, and all the ideas which he discussed. He addressed a dozen and a half state assemblies on their development plans.
All right.
I think all those things have to become in one societal center.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kalam may not be with us in physical form, but he continues to live with us in our memories and continues to inspire this generation and will continue to inspire many more generations to come. That's all that we have for you in this edition of Candid Conversation. If you have been, thanks for watching.